And so as Paul moves on, we see one more decision. And I think it's a decision related to priorities. Now, of course, the Roman Empire is the one in power at this time, but so much of the culture and the language is Greek. And the reason for that is due mainly to the conquests of Alexander the Great that happened 3 centuries before the time of Christ. Alexander was from Macedonia, that area up in the north, but his father Philip had managed to gain control over southern Greece, and Alexander then expands his empire at breakneck speed through Asia, south to Egypt, and east through Babylon and Persia, all the way to India. He just keeps charging forward, conquering new territory without ever bothering to establish a good system to govern it all. And it was foolishly short-sighted. He burns himself out, falling ill and dying at 32 years of age. And his empire then gets parceled out to 4 of his generals, who then begin fighting each other. And with Paul's desire to preach the gospel where it hadn't been heard before, I mean, you could say he might have been tempted to do something similar. Now, he's presented with another opportunity in a major city that he hasn't visited yet. But he chooses to say no, or at least not yet. We have to say that that decision is guided by his priorities. Take a look at Acts 18, verses 19 through 21. It says, they came to Ephesus, and he left them there. That's Paul, left Aquila and Priscilla, but he himself went into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. When they asked him to stay for a longer period, he declined. But on taking leave of them, he said, I will return to you if God wills. And he set sail from Ephesus. So again, to go back to our map, he leaves Corinth with Aquila and Priscilla and sets sail from Cenchreae with his fresh haircut, and they make their way across the Aegean to Ephesus on the coast of Asia. And when they arrive, he follows his normal strategy. He goes and reasons in the synagogue, and they want him to stay. So why does Paul turn that down? I mean, what could possibly be more important? Take a look at verses 22 and 23. It says, when he landed at Caesarea, he went up and greeted the church and then went down to Antioch. After spending some time there, he departed and went from one place to the next through the region of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the disciples. So this is really the end of Paul's second missionary journey and the start of his third. Going up from Caesarea would take you to Jerusalem. Some of the apostles were probably there leading the church along with James, the brother of Jesus. And then the church in Antioch, that was Paul's home base. The body of believers who sent him out on both of his previous missionary journeys. So Luke doesn't specify his reason for going to these places, but I think we can surmise that he goes to report on his ministry so that they would all know how to pray for him and for those new churches. His immediate goal is to go back and visit those churches in Galatia and Phrygia that he started back during his first missionary journey. And so I think we can say his priority was to strengthen them before beginning a new endeavor in Ephesus. But I think we could also say that his time in Corinth probably took a toll on him. And so I think part of this was seeking encouragement, advice, fellowship, and rest in Jerusalem and in Antioch. I mean, how else could he then go out and strengthen others unless he was receiving some of that? And when you look at the Gospels, we see that pattern in the ministry of Jesus. It tells us he would often rise early in the morning and withdraw to a desolate place to pray. After he sent out the apostles on a ministry trip. Mark 6:30 through 32 says, the apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while. For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a desolate place by themselves. Now, in that case, the crowd still tracked them down. That's how we get the feeding of the 5,000. I mean, it's not easy to set aside time like that. But to hear it from the lips of Jesus, it just shows you how important it is. And so think about your priorities. What priorities guide your decisions? Do you make time for rest, for prayer? I mean, you can also kind of go to the other extreme. You can live in such isolation that you never go out to strengthen other believers and to serve or to spread the faith to those who've never heard. Is there something that you need to say no to?